I've never missed center face on a driver, but it helps other guys.
It may have been in the center, but it wasn't in the fairway.
We can do
It was center. It was center, but it was 12 degrees open. I'm sorry for your house.
I was going to say we can do an entire episode about DJ's driver situation.
Yeah, we're working it out.
It'd be a 3-hour special. Welcome back to episode 14 of the Loggerhead Golf Podcast. Today we've got DJ with us. We're going to be talking about, obviously, one of the biggest trends in the industry, counterbalanced putters, and then also composite shafts and what's kind of changing in the industry across the board. So we'll let DJ take it away from here.
All right. I mean, I don't think anyone hasn't heard about the counterbalanced putter that everyone's been using. Shout out to Keegan, who won. He's kind of old school boy that's been doing it. But, we like to experiment here. I think all of us in one way are going to try to mess with the counterbalanced putter. We got 2 already built, one for Steve, built one for me to play around with. I'm sure we're gonna dig into it, but I mean, it's a technique that started back in 2014, 2015.
Yep, right after Rule 14B passed.
Yeah, they were going to ban the belly putter, and then so they had like a 35-inch and a 38-inch version that started popping out just to get the shaft heavier, some weight above your hands, which would make the putter head actually a little faster and stop some of that shaft movement, make it a little more stable, kind of make you believe or feel that it was anchored. So it's been cool, getting a lot of talk about it.
Yeah, Justin Rose won at Marion with a spider blade that was counterbalanced.
Yeah.
So it's not that it's a new thing, it's just been relit. Because obviously Keegan won at the start of the year with this famed putter. No one batted an eye.
I feel bad for him. He's like, hey, look at me. I've been.
Well, he's arm locking it too, though.
Mm-hmm. Well,
he's doing like a pseudo wrist arm.
Yeah,
I don't know.
There's like it's 3 weird ways that they suggest to use it, and I think
Caleb would tell him to use the chicken claw.
Yeah, chicken claw.
Oh.
Chicken claw.
Jesus.
Don't rule it out. My word.
Oh, good luck to Caleb this week. He's at our sections championship.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Yep. Caleb was happy to see Siwoo with the chicken claw grip.
Yeah,
we couldn't have a podcast without shouting out Caleb and the chicken claw.
Caleb said we had to say it.
Yeah. There you go. I got a big chair to fill. Something for Caleb.
I think the biggest thing, it's why you haven't seen counterbalanced putters the last few years. The manufacturers stopped making them. True. A lot of the players on tour have gone to an arm lock style of putter. So what did all the manufacturer OEMs do? They just make their alternative putters, either long putters or arm lock putters. What do we think the OEMs are going to do going forward?
We're going to see a bunch of them.
Yeah.
But that's another thing I have with manufacturers. Make putters for your customers, not what's winning or hot on tour. I mean, I would say that. What do you see in a lot of putt labs? I mean, what's better for customers?
Well, not to be too harsh on manufacturers, but with the exception of Ping and honestly TaylorMade with a few inserts, most of the Scotty Camerons and Odysseys you see on tour anyway, you can't get at a retail level.
Right.
It might be the Versa head, but like with Odyssey, they've got a special white hot insert called the Pro X and then the Black Pro. That's what like Shane Lowry uses. Keegan Bradley's using that in his Versa. That has never been allowed at retail.
Right.
So it may be the same head, but those players are able to tune those putters with different faces. So I would say from through Sam Putt Lab, what we realize is a lot of people use the incorrect putter because they're like, well, I don't like a soft putter, yet they're using an insert putter with a urethane or Surlyn insert, which is soft, comes off slower. Right. So just like having the options, like with even roll, we can do whatever we want with this putter. There's 11 neck options, a couple weight options. We have a review coming on YouTube later this week or on the channel that discusses all that. Odyssey with a 2-line series, which is their milled series, and then TaylorMade now with the TP Reserve, Ping with PLD. The market on putters right now is incredible as far as for custom options. Where 10 years ago, you can change your weights.
Yeah,
but that was about
to
it.
Speak to this build, I mean, the fact that you can piece so many things together. Steve went with the heaviest backside pieces because to do a true counterbalance, you need to start with something that's over 350 grams, and that's why you see so much lead tape. They're trying to get to that.
There's my
400.
question. So for our listeners, can you take my gamer now and turn it into a counterbalanced putter?
It depends on what your gamer is.
Exactly. I just want everybody to understand that,
it's
not every
just-
putter
Yeah,
you can
can't
turn
bring
into
me
a counterbalanced
anything
putter.
on the planet. But I think that's what's so great about our business and our team is like you have something like Kyle and Sam Putt Lab. They can see if the fad's going to work for you or how are we going to build it. The minds of you two out on the floor talking, fitting. You bring me that product and we all discuss, is this math viable? Do we have a product that if the outcome is viable, is going to help the customer, which is great. But yeah, like some of your lighter weight blades, you bring me a 1984 Ping Answer 4, super lightweight. Nope, not going to happen. It just won't translate.
Yeah, because like you said, I think we'd have to add a crap ton of lead tape to that head,
It would alter the performance.
it would alter the performance.
It would alter the performance of the head so much you wouldn't get what you want.
I think you said manufacturers have, like, the market on putters right now is huge. Mm-hmm. But I will say 99% of the putters that you could get technically off the shelf. Do any of you play an off the shelf putter?
No.
I don't think the manufacturers really have that many custom options now, though. Now, through their actual, like, distinct custom labs, so like the PLD program from Ping or the Scotty Cameron Gallery, a lot of their putters are pretty bone stock, So I still think even though the manufacturers are putting out a lot of options, I don't think there's a lot of customizations to putters. That's what kind of makes us unique because as soon as my putter got out of the box, we immediately made changes for it.
Yeah, we did a lot to it.
We did a lot to it. So
that's the one thing you have to know too, which maybe the manufacturers can make this a better option for a lower price. But the putter, it never wears out. You're using it every hole.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid to spend some money on it. But if you're going to customize a putter, you're going to spend a little bit of money, which it's a valuable tool. We'll pay a lot for a driver that we don't need to use a ton.
Exactly what I was getting ready to say. I cannot stand to see my clients spend $600 every 3 months trying to chase distance.
Yeah.
Whenever the most important thing in your bag is a putter.
Yeah, they won't blink at the price of a driver. But you tell them this putter is over $300, over $400, like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, not the $6,000 you spent in 2 years on drivers yet, and we still can't find a fairway, and we're putting 5 times.
Yep.
yeah, and it also too, I would say 90% of the people come in, they're like, I've had this putter for 25 years, and I just like looking at it. It's like, hey, like that's what we tell you a lot in your putter fitting. You got to like what you're looking at. Let's just update it a little bit.
Yeah, and don't be afraid to get a little uncomfortable.
Yeah.
But if you like what you're looking at, like me, I've putted with some form of like skinny blade my entire career. A little uncomfortable. We've got like kind of a deeper square back, but I still get that blade look. So there's options out there. You don't have to instantly say, I've been putting with a Scotty Cameron blade my entire life. I got to go to a Jailbird to do this trend. You don't have to do that.
It's kind of what I did.
Oh yeah.
I've fully have given up on blade putters.
Yeah, but you're not afraid to.
I said it last podcast. I'll try anything to get better.
Heard that about you.
That's it. Yeah. I definitely have a Spider SI that I've had since the trend started back in 2014. Was that when the putter came out?
I think so.
I was
14
going
or
to say
15.
there were.
Because Rose won in 13 with the Spider Blade, and Spider Blade and Spider Mallet came out before SI, so it would have been either 14 or 15.
Yeah. So I loved that putter for a long time, and then I got the regular copper Spider when it came out.
I say because
I
I graduated high school in 14, so yeah, it was the summer of 14.
So old.
I told people all the time that was the best putting round I ever had was a USAM qualifier. I made everything and hit the ball terribly, but I was using a Futura counterbalance putter, and I think we had like 4 counterbalance putters in our garage at the time between the Spiders, the Spider Blade, because they made that Spider Blade that kind of had a little bit of like the notch back that I really liked. But that was kind of like the fad then before arm lock. I think arm lock putters have kind of taken that away. So we're probably going to see less arm locks offered at the OEM and more counterbalance putter.
Which you can still take your counterbalance putter and
Arm locker.
brace it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a versatile style.
I will always say that's anchoring. I don't.
It's anchoring. It's anchoring. But and you're just doing different things to the feel,
Yeah.
you know.
No, I was going to say real quick before we dive into iron shafts, explain from scratch kind of how you built these to be counterbalanced.
Right,
From where they were.
Yeah, from where they were. Okay, so with the 105 here, this originally came, playing it as a short putter, about 34 and a half to 35 inches. So what you want to counterbalance it shaft-wise when we were pulling everything apart is, you want that weight to get about 3 inches above your hands. So I still take it at address, putt naturally. And then, I had a variety of weights because counterbalancing hasn't really complete, it hasn't been gone all these years.
No.
I mean, Stroke Labs, Odyssey, they have a ton.
Technically, more people that have a newer Odyssey, they play
They
a
are all
counterbalance
playing
putter.
counterbalance.
They just don't realize it.
They just,
just don't realize it. Yeah.
And there's a bullet in there, a big copper, anywhere from 35 to 75 gram weight at the top of that shaft, which thank goodness they use a pressure locker, like a rubber washer now. When they first came out, they used to epoxy them in.
Yeah.
And trying to be light on that carbon fiber shaft with a heat gun to pull that weight out was not fun. And back in the day when everyone needed them cut down or extended. But yeah, we took this shaft, we extended it. I actually used, because I was doing my math, I had about a 385 gram head here. Didn't need to lead tape it if I didn't go dramatic with the counterbalancing. I wanted a light counterbalance feel because I originally put the grip on with no weight. Wanted to see what that felt like. Then I ended up saying I want about 40 grams up top. So I grabbed one of the weights and just sanded it down until I got to that weight. Dropped it in, threw the grip on. Loved it. With Steve's here, again, the shaft wise, this actually came out of a 41 inch arm lock. It's a heavier shaft, so we already have a lot of the.
So which LA is this? Yeah, it's a TPZ 180.
Yeah, that's big boy. And it was a workout the first time putting the grip on because the shaft got so flared up top. Took justice holding down my gripper station so I wouldn't flip over as I'm like trying to wiggle and push on it. So it's a strong shaft. I couldn't break it putting the grip on. But yeah, we counterbalanced that using SuperStroke has a drop-in weight program. You can order 25, 50, 75, and 100 gram weights that just screw in to the end of these grips, which is amazing not only for counterbalancing, but as you see this with the heavy heads, if you get, it's super counterbalanced, so you're pulling less weight out feel-wise out of this head. So it's easier for your hands to make it go faster. But you're going to have, a lot of players are going to struggle with that touch putt. If it's a really, really quick green, you're going to feel like your hammer hands in it all day. So you can actually, at the practice green that day, trying to figure out your stemp rating, like you can pull out weights like instantaneously and put them back in. And Steve started with a 50, and now we've jumped up to 100 just for his feel. And he had, with the heaviest stuff on here, and I don't know if we can see on the camera, we got a little bit of strategic lead tape kind of circled in to where he can't pick up a ball with it anymore. But now at least
I'll get him one of those clips that go on the end of the putter.
He's getting to that age. No. Shots fired, Steve. No, but because the head, even with the heaviest stuff, it was only 345 out the gate. So it started kind of light for what we wanted to do. And we added about 35 grams, we added exactly 35 grams of lead tape in there as a start point for him. So he could start feeling it. Because these are all it's so feel based. You're going to.
Didn't you guys go with the heavier fangs here too?
fangs
They put them on there.
Yeah, that's pretty unique. And Kyle will dive this more into the tech talk, but even rolls probably the most customizable putter right now.
Well, it's like their
stock.
their little fitting
Stock.
part.
That's
where you say
Legos
it's
for putters.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
like something out of James Bond. I love it. It's cool.
Well, and what's cool with these too, and I'll point it up in the camera there, is the bottom of the grip. That's called a tech port. So that's that weighting system. The grips that we carry at a retail level from SuperStroke are 15 inches for this experiment. What Fowler and Clark have used is 17-inch. That grip is tour only, so it's not available at retail. They did a limited release on their website
And
and
it sold out in like 10
sold
minutes.
out instantly. So we can definitely still make these builds happen with the same grip, because realistically, if you look at like Wyndham Clark, he's using it different. He's gripping all the way at the top. So realistically speaking,
It's more of a visual. You don't
Correct.
have to have. You could put any grip
Yeah.
on that technically, and we have a 2.0 version on this one and a 3.0 on this one. Again,
And that's the thing. It can be completely customizable to the person. I know the reason why I probably would want to add another, get into a longer putter now. I know we kind of brushed by it, but if you have an Odyssey putter that's been built in the last 3 years that has one of the steel graphite shafts in it, congratulations, you have a counterbalanced putter.
certain grips. There's a non-taper from Lamkin. That grip is 75 grams. You now have a counterbalanced putter.
Yep. So you're already counterbalancing, and you probably didn't even know it. But I just like the length. I always like kind of that little bit of added length.
That was my question. Is the length going to still be the same as your normal 34, 35-inch putter? The countless boundary putters typically longer.
Typically, yeah. I mean, that's why back in the day they released it in two lengths, 38 and 35.
Yeah.
And just like you'll see on the floor today, you see men's putters, 35 inches and 34. It's all preference. The one thing I love about the longer grips, just like you'll see, that's how I fit sometimes for length quickly, is where do your hands want to fall? Like, you're not dictated by a pistol grip saying you have to hold me here or something like that. But yeah, it's traditionally 3 inches above where you normally place your hands.
well, that's what's nice is like yesterday I sold a 2-line Atlanta, and we built it counterbalanced, and it's 33 total inches.
Yeah.
Because his wrist to floor measured out, he needed a 31-inch putter. So we took Super Stroke, the tungsten weights with 2-liner adjustable, and boom. So it doesn't have to be like, that's what's cool is, even though you've had 2 generic links, we can build it to whatever length within reason.
Right.
Obviously, you can't do a 26-inch counterbalance because
Justice would love that.
And it's not that we say you have to have a custom putter, but if you go about getting a putter through a putter fitting the right way, you're going to realize your putter's going to probably be the most custom thing in your golf bag.
Yeah.
Because everybody's so different. You can't just grab a blanket 35-inch putter and it'll
Extend
work
it and
for
throw
you.
it.
Well,
grip
that's
on
what
it,
that's what we do here.
Yeah.
I mean, our putting green is not made to quote unquote sell a putter. It's not funneled to the hole. But we walk up. You're looking at putters and you're testing them. And I've talked to so many customers. You just think, this is what I got to pick from. These are my only links, my only loss, my only lie angles. And they putt with it, say I like it, walk out the door, and don't putt well. Any one of us walk up to them in the green and we start talking to them. We watch them roll some putts. We talk to them about toe hang. We see if their lie angle's right. We end up 90% of the putters we sell, some form of customization happens because we cut it to them or we extend it how they want. Bend it before they leave to roll their first putts on green grass. And then we follow up with them later. They usually come back and talk to us and maybe adjust something on that putter.
Yeah, I was going to say, I know Kyle's sitting over here. He's like, you guys are preaching to the choir, but, Kyle's always kind of been the putter guy, and he always has it the most. Like, it's very frustrating when you see a fully built great golf bag and then a putter that, they're like, I'm not really a great putter. It's like, well,
Maybe there's a reason.
yep, maybe. Nice thing is we can figure it out.
I think the smart thing to do for all of our listeners is to make sure you're investing in getting fitted for a putter. I think I've had a couple of friends, I've gone to their houses inside the garage. They have an old golf bag that has literally 20 putters in it, and it drives me up the wall when there's the technology available now to customize a putter for your particular stroke pattern, your arc shape, how much face rotation that you have, the proper length, proper lie, proper loft. These are all things that we can kind of look at on Sand Putt Lab.
Yeah.
How many putters does your Sand Putt Labs, when they walk in, how many putters do they usually have in their hand?
2 to 3.
Yep, 2 to 3. I've seen as much as 5.
And
walk through the door.
How many of those 2 or 3 work?
Typically none.
Yeah.
I've had a guy walk in with a left-handed putter, right-handed, long putter, and a belly putter.
That's a guy who's searching right there.
Yeah.
Well, I will say, hey, I'm all for it.
Yeah.
I think and I always like the coach in me, if I see a guy walk into it, like I don't do putt labs, but if I were to do putt labs and I see a guy walk in with 2 putters and he says, I'm not a great putter, both those putters already have a negative connotation
they gotta
to
go.
it.
Oh, yeah.
So for me as a coach, they got to go.
Gotta go.
You know, I'm a big mental guy. So if you mentally don't believe you're a good putter,
Oh yeah.
you're probably not going to putt well.
Shout out to this guy. He might know, one of my friends. I used to play him years and years ago, and he was a really good golfer, but he carried 5 putters in his trunk of his car. And if he was beating me on the front line and he felt hot with that putter, I would just ask him, like, what happened to that Cameron you were putting with last week? I mean, you were rolling that lights out. Sure enough, on the turn, he would either go back and grab the different putter out of the
Automatic
trunk.
DQ.
Automatic DQ, but it's a friend. It was a friendly game. Or he would just start going ice cold with the putter that was in his hand. He had too
Smart
many.
move right there.
Yeah. Hey, it's all mental.
Ice
Yep.
played.
It's
Yeah.
well played.
Hey, my dad taught me the mind tricks because he's played them on me my entire life.
Yeah, one
That
quick
explains a lot.
Yes.
The one
Made
quick
me
note
strong,
on
though. Made me strong.
putter fitting that I'll hit on. I'm not going to dig too deep in it because we'll probably address it. If someone says you need a putter based off of you being straight back and straight through, I'm not calling them out. They don't know what they're talking about. It is physically impossible. It would defy the laws of gravity to have a straight back and straight through putting stroke. What? Even with a robot ping putt man, you have to minimally have 3 degrees of arc/rotation to make a putting stroke work.
telling me
So
I've been lied to?
that's why it's correct. Yes. Now in the 80s, and the coach that says this famous coach, it's not his fault. In the 1980s, when this concept came out, they were limited on tech.
Right.
Like Sam Putt Lab's not the only system out there. I truly believe it's the most accurate because you have Quintech too. But that, to me, Quintech cares more about how the ball leaves the face and rolls on camera rather than the overall stroke. But putter fitting is the most important because if you play a round of golf and you keep up with all your strokes, 60 to 68% of your strokes are coming from the putter. So if you're going to invest in anything in your golf bag, whether you buy a $50 putter or a $5,000 putter, at least go through a putter fitting from a certified putter fitting location. Whether it's a Sam Putt Lab fitting location like we are, a Quintech certified location, or an Odyssey Performance location, make sure they are certified because there's too many people. I've seen so many stories where, I got fit. The guy spent 5 minutes with me and said I was straight back and straight through. I need a face balance mallet.
Well, I've been playing competitive golf for a long time, and I didn't do a putter fitting until last year.
Hey,
I've always
but you
been the first to say that
But
I
if you
don't.
practice, you figure out how to work through your equipment.
Yeah.
I mean, I played against a guy. He had a face balance putter with a lot of art, but he realized he didn't know he was doing it. He lined up everything for a pole. So if it was a dead straight putt, he would see it as a ball out in dead center.
Well,
But that's practice.
Brooks
practice.
Koepka.
Yeah. I mean, Walker, who just won the NCM, was probably the best example. He's shooting 66 to 68 with the completely wrong putter. So when he came in last year for Sam Putt Lab and we got to work with Sean Toulon at Odyssey, we engineered a face balance center shaft putter. And fast forward 6 months later and 3 wins, he wins the NCM.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you don't necessarily have to be playing bad golf to be getting fit for these items.
Yeah.
Scheffler. I mean, great.
I'll say we can
great
talk-
ball striker, but
Yeah.
you
Oh,
don't
well.
have to always putt amazing, but it helps.
Yeah.
Well, cool. Well, we're going to hop into the composite shafts. I'm going to let you start. Probably the most famous one that's currently on the market right now is the Fujikura Axiom with the VeloCore profile. Because if you've watched any golf on TV or high-level golf, it seems like everybody's got a VeloCore driver shaft or fairway wood shaft.
Yeah. Their Metal Woods package has been insane for the last several years. Due to the VeloCore tech, the multi-material bias, the extra stuff they're putting down on the tip for stability's sake. And they finally, with the Axiom, they brought that technology to the irons, which is really cool. Other than the composite shafts we touched on in the podcast I was a part of a while ago, the big part about the Axiom setup is they're doing 3 styles of shafts for one set. They have their 2, 3, and 4.
Long.
They're long. They have their mid, and then they have their 8, 9 wedge, which is allowing several things. As a builder, when we're usually dealing with a 370 parallel shaft, there's a tipping chart where there's a trim code to get them to what the irons are supposed to plug into. Before this, with having 3 styles of shafts, we'd have to eat into a lot of the tech that is at the tip of that shaft. Because if we're tipping something 4 inches and the tech is, the last 6 inches of the shaft, we'll say, I just erased a bunch of what makes this shaft really fancy. And so we're having to do there's a specific trim code to each of these 3 styles of shafts where it's a minimal tipping. And the other thing that does is it really helps give you a great constant weight in the build, because we're not taking a bunch of material off of one shaft and, thus making it lighter. But yeah, that's like the basics of it. So, in the higher package, which we'll get into, specifically they're trying to make it not only accurate, but land soft. We want to get those high clubs up in the air more, mids, more shot shaping, more control, again, trying to hit a window. And then our lower clubs, being as accurate and precise as possible with them. And that's
still being able to land soft.
Yeah, and still land soft. And that's been the trick behind VeloCore all this time. It's like, how much does it torque on miss hits? I saw an example, like the driver off a toe was 10 degrees with another shaft. It's 2, which that's a lot more MOI trucking behind the ball. If we have a shaft that's not going to flex that much. I've never missed center face on a driver, but it helps other guys.
It may have been in the center, but it wasn't in the
We
fairway.
can do an
It was
entire
center. It was
episode
center,
about-
but it was 12 degrees open.
I was gonna say,
sorry for your house.
I was gonna say we can do an entire episode about DJ's driver situation.
We're working it out.
It'd be a 3-hour special.
Wow.
I think the coolest thing, I always go back to the mental thing. I've played VeloCore wood shafts now for 3-4 years, I guess. Ever since they first came out, I've essentially had them in my bag. And, the reason why I had them in the bag is just that feel for that stability, right? So when I see an iron shaft now have that little magical word
It's
there,
reassuring.
it 100%. Like, I know it's like, you know what? At least now I already knew this worked because it works in the woods.
Yep.
Now we have that validation in our iron shafts now. All these companies have come out with iron shafts where they say, hey, it's extremely stable. On a rifle 6.0, 6.5, 7.0, they're going to be extremely stable shafts, which they're great shafts. But especially for composite, it's pretty cool to see that they have a technology that works really well. Now they're just bringing them to the entire golf bag.
It's visually reassuring, but you can feel it. When we were first hitting them, you can feel how solid the lower portion of the shaft is.
I think what's really neat is the fact that they've been able to achieve the different weights. Went all the way up to 125 grams. You just don't see it that often in a graphite iron shaft. Right. Your better players typically are playing X100s and things like that are heavier shafts. And being able to offer that is a great benefit.
Say, how many options do they have?
And in here, we have 75 going up to 125. So it's like 75, 95, 105, 125 in varying frequencies. You can't get to X until you get, I think, to
105.
105. Yeah. Just because, there is some limits to the technology. And not too many players at that frequency are going to go super, super light. But it's just amazing with composite, they have that option now. Whereas it used to be, just back-breaking heavy if you were a hard swinger. Now you don't have to do that if you don't want to.
Well, I think that's the cool part. They don't have to have that many options when you get to the heavier spectrum because, like the 105 stiff is more stable than most of the X100 series from a torque perspective. So, like the common thought of, oh, well, I'm not going to play a composite shaft because that's for old people. Well, unless you've, kind of been under a rock for a little while and haven't watched any professional golf, some of the hardest, like Bryson started this whole movement. Then
The Bryson rebar.
there's about 38 players now on tour, and most of them are using LA Golf's, proprietary system because they were kind of the first company to roll it out. Then MMT has taken off huge as well. You've got Sergio Garcia, who everybody says is probably the best ball striker of all time. 14 clubs, all graphite, and the last 2 tournaments he's played, it's the highest he's in terms of accuracy he's had in 4.5 years.
Right, and that's why the connotation we talked about it last time I was on. That's why I like to use the word, even though it's carbon fiber, different levels of carbon fiber we're dealing with. I say composite because whether it's true or not, the moment we slip and I do it and say like graphite,
It's a bullwhip.
it's a bullwhip. It's a pole noodle. I got a fly fishing pole. It feels better. there's so many things out there that just your brain clicks to it because that's what it was for so many years, and it's not true anymore. And we're having to reprogram our brains.
Well, we see it every day in the fitting bay now is more people are open to trying what's best for them.
Yeah.
And how many people between the age of 16 and 30 have we fit just in the last 2 months? They have not gone to steel.
Oh no, the head only
haven't.
program we're doing,
yeah, I was
it's
gonna
like it's composite. I'm almost like shocked. I'm like, ooh, steel.
Well, I like knowing that the OEMs are going that extra length to make their product better. So when we're talking about Acura makes an awesome composite iron shaft. UST, all these companies, they're investing more into composite because they finally realized it works, and it works for all weights.
It works, and it's marketable now. Even though the players aren't, you won't see Rory McIlroy with it right now. He's still stuck to steel.
Technology is just passed by.
Surpassed the game.
God, crybaby Rory's back.
I'm going to backdoor that top 10, though, boy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think
Technology is too good.
from a building perspective too, unlike steel, we can control the exact CPM that these come out to. With steel, you cannot.
No.
And then the old classical, you can tip steel. No, you can't.
No,
you can't.
I don't know what you're trying to achieve, but sure.
yeah. I mean, even and for the naysayers out there is 370 steel that I am using a tipping chart, but there's just not that. There's not a lot of play in it. Like there's not what you can do to stuff like this where we can get exacting CPMs to match what the player needs.
Now, the unique thing about these is it that they say this is supposed to swing weight like steel.
They throw a lot of tricks into it. It's better.
What are you seeing?
Closer than anything.
So is it swing weighting like steel?
It's not an exact carryover. Sorry. You can. It's like putting forge on a club with one forged piece. You can say there is some truth to what they're saying. It's closer to swing weighting like steel.
Okay.
But it's not going to swing weight exactly. And Fujikura has a lot of tech behind them, whereas they put different density of their materials in certain parts of their shafts to play with how that swing weight's going to do. They even have a lightweight paint and gloss tech where they're trying to just not make the coating of the shaft add so much weight to what they've already built. So they're throwing a lot of tech at making my life a lot easier. But I mean, playing around, there's such a varying swing weight need from client to client, whether they want D0 or I'm a D5 guy. You're always going to have to add something. And that's where I've talked to the manufacturers, hey, catch up, start giving us better head weight packages to play with, and don't put it all on the build and the shaft itself to get your super lightweight head to where I need it to be.
Yeah, I think that's what's great about Mizuno, and why we do so well with them. They offer 3 head weights with almost every iron that they have.
I still want them to bump it up. I want them to be heavy.
I say
Everybody's
everyone's
light.
well, it's just like drivers now. Everyone's trying to go to those lighter materials
Yeah.
to really get the weight dialed in specific areas of the club for performance reasons.
Yeah.
So even though that you mostly only hear that in driver, that's happening in irons now too. I mean, a lot of Mizuno stuff is heavy tungsten in the toe. I mean, but
Yeah. And it's
that's why they feel so good.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. Like I was actually gonna say it's like they feel so good, and you can't with throwing this weight for performance sake. I don't want no one wants to lose that old school feel, how soft it used to feel, the buttery feeling. As we throw different types of metal, that's something the manufacturers are trying to be very careful with.
What's cool with Mura is all Mura heads are manufactured. A lot of people don't know this about Mura, but if you build it at standard length, the head itself is manufactured for a D3 swing weight.
Yeah.
So that's why you'll see like some videos online of these like tour trucks and more tour style build facilities. If a player wants a lighter swing weight, they physically lock the head down and take a drill press and take weight out of the hosel.
Pour it out, yeah.
So,
Which is I think is super cool. I also think too now, as you're seeing more and more players get into it, they're starting to not really care about swing weight. They're going for overall weight. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm torn on that one.
Yeah.
I think swing weight feel wise matters. I've talked about the differences in players. Like a player of y'all's caliber, y'all are going to figure it out. It's a performance thing. 3-4 swings, you're going to start figuring it out. Our 95% of the golf world, that feel I think still matters.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah,
I mean, I would say
wrong.
I would always say it's way better to having a heavier feel in your hands, club head wise, than a light.
I can tell you from our last build, and I'm gonna talk about another build that we're getting ready to do. We were messing around with swing weight, and I felt that it was light. We go back, and it's D1, and then we add some more weight to it, hit it again, and it still felt light, and it was D3, and I just ended up landing on D4, and then we measured an old iron that I had, and it was D4. So,
Right.
I'm not a tour player, but I'm a pretty good player, and I can definitely tell the difference between.
Pump those numbers up.
No, I mean,
I got D5.5.
but I mean, swing weight's not king though. If you
Strong
take
like
like
bull.
an LA Golf 125, that shaft is so counterbalanced in the butt, you can be D6, and when it gets to the midway point, it disappears. It's like your counterbalanced putter here, but you're full swinging it. It just doesn't matter how heavy this thing is down here if you've got a lot of weight up there. So that's the other balance you have to worry about.
Yeah, and that's a good point. I think maybe that's a different topic for a different day, but pay attention, guys, when you're putting those jumbo grips on your clubs and how that's going to take a weight away from the club head.
Yeah. How do you feel as fitters when you go through a full fitting off standard grips or something like that? We get a swing weight feel. He buys the clubs, and then a month later, we're putting jumbo CP2 wraps.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
Well, Hank Haney said it'd make me not slice the ball.
I always do what Hank Haney says.
Now, Kyle, how much, looking at the Axioms, what are those shafts retailing for?
It depends on weight, but
Yeah.
90 to 120 bucks.
Yeah.
I know Fuji, a lot of the reason is the tooling they use to make these shafts. There isn't a tighter tolerance out there. If it's not 98% round, these things actually get rejected.
Yep.
Because with shafts, there's a reason that there's certain paint schemes. So, not to call out a company, but there's a manufacturer that has Ventus red shafts, but they're non-VeloCore. There's a reason that shaft retails for $69,
Yep.
and a VeloCore shaft retails for $349.
Fuji's real about it on their website.
Yeah, I mean, they tell you exactly the difference, and it's the grade of the shaft, the roundness, and the overall stability and material that they use.
Right.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's like anything. You get into some of these higher OEMs, that price tag goes up a little bit.
Right.
So
But I mean, I think all our consumers.
it's a little shocking.
It can be shocking, but you're getting what you're paying for.
Well, and what's
first.
cool from my perspective, even if money's not an issue, you just going into I want the best club possible.
Mm-hmm.
Once you have the shafts and the heads, when the heads wear out,
You can
within the
reuse
same, if
shafts.
you're within the same parameter,
Yeah.
all you need to do is buy new heads, and we can get one pull out of them, reuse them.
Mm-hmm.
Now you can't do that 3-4 times because then you whittle away material, but
Yes.
it's not just a one-time use. You get a long-term investment out of
Right.
these.
And most of the companies believe so much in the strength of their composite shafts, they have an amazing warranty program.
Well, look at Ricky Fowler. The driver shaft he's using is 13 years old.
Yeah.
The original blank Diamante black shaft. It is 13 years old. He's had it in 3 clubs.
This is made right versus when you get the proprietary one, you might
Mass-produced.
mass produced. It's made wrong to a low, quality expectation, so they can just throw it in some drivers. And why does it snap? Other than hitting it off the hosel, why does it snap?
We're not going to talk about that.
Okay.
I think we should throw up this Bob Marley build that we're going to be doing. Speaking of which, where's the Axiom shafts for the Mizuno 225s?
The top end ones are still back ordered for you, sir. I'm gonna jump right on that as soon as I get it. Most important client. But I'm excited. You got the blackout.
So the blacked out 225 Mizunos with the Axiom shaft. I'm super stoked.
Did you do 105 or 125s?
105, I think, is for
Nice.
swing weight purposes. Right?
Yeah. For swing weight, because you want to again that D4 feel. So I think you're gonna like it overall, like the 105 versus the 125.
Yeah.
Cool.
Well, awesome. So just a couple updates. Next week's July 4th, so we will not be here. We will be enjoying a day off. So we are going to have
America.
1 week with no podcast. Yeah, 1776. Let's
And
go.
I'd like to shout out to all our military. Thank you guys for your service. Veterans, thank you very much. Appreciate everything you guys do for our country.
So to kind of fill that gap, we'll have the Even Roll full tech review of their fitting system. So some of the stuff we talked about as far as customability and how that works, how it looks. And then we will be dropping possibly 1 or 2 more. So stay tuned for that. Thanks for listening. If you haven't already, subscribe and turn on those push bell notifications. And we'll see you next time.